we have seen how to use decision, choice, calculation, multi-calculation, data item, collection, loop, all these stages, right? So anyone have any queries on these stages, how to use these stages? Any confusion on how to use choice, any confusion on how to use calculation, how to write the expression in the calculation window, anything, please let me know if you have any such kind of issues, okay? Any difficulty in understanding them. So basically these are the basic stages which we are supposed to be familiar with. Once you are familiar with these stages, it will be easy for you to go ahead and design the solution logically, okay? Now let us step into Object Studio. I'm going to create a new group here. I'm going to create a new object. Right click and create object. Let me open this object here. So this is the Object Studio. To the right side of your screen, you can see Object Studio, and to the left side, you can see Process Studio. Now, go ahead and try to identify the differences what we have in Object Studio and Process Studio. So if you observe clearly, the list of stages here, we have more number of stages in Object Studio than Process Studio. So in Object Studio, we have stages like read, write, navigate, code, and wait stage. Yes or no? Okay, these are the stages which we don't have in Process Studio. You can observe it here. See, read, write, navigate, code, and wait stage. All these 5 stages are not available in Process Studio. Why aren't they not available in Process Studio? Why are they only available in Object Studio? So if you remember, initially I told you that we use Object Studio to communicate with the applications, right? So basically, if you want to read the data from the application or to write the data into the application, we use these stages like read, write, navigate, code, and wait stages. Okay. Now, when I talk about read stage, what is the purpose of the read stage? Read stage will be able to read the data from the application. Using read stage, you can read the data. Okay. Whereas coming to the write stage, what is the purpose of this write stage? Similarly, by the name itself, you can understand what is the purpose of that stage. You can enter any information into any text boxes using this write stage. Okay. And navigate. What is the purpose of navigate? Navigate will help you in many ways here. We have multiple actions that we can perform using this navigate stage. So we can also launch the application. We launch the application, we terminate the application, we navigate between the pages in the application using this navigate stage. Okay, so let's say if the application is having multiple pages, so if you want to navigate to the next page, you need to enter some data and you're supposed to click on save button or continue button, something like that, right? So to perform any clicks on the buttons or to focus on the buttons or whatever it may be, any actions which will help us to navigate from one page to another, we can use this navigate stage. There are a lot of actions in navigate stage through which we can pass commands also. So we know like commands, what is keystrokes. So keyboard keystrokes, using shortcuts and all, we'll be able to do some functions, right? Like copy, paste, etc. So all these things also we can perform using this navigate stage. That is the purpose of navigate stage. Code stage. What is the purpose of code stage? Code stage is the place where you can write your custom code. What do you mean by custom code? So let's say, for example, we have seen some of the functions here, right? Date functions. For example, in calculation stage, we have seen most of the functions here like number, text, date, etc. Right? In date functions, let's say for example, I ask you to extract the name of the day by giving you the input as date. I will give you today's date. I want you to tell me what day it is. Likewise, I can give you any date. I want to see what is the day. Okay, so let's say for example, today I will give you today's date. Let's say it is 10th November 2021. I give you this date and I will ask you, hey, what day it is. Similarly, I will ask you 25th November 2021, what day it is. Do we have any direct functions here? through which we can get the name of the day by passing the input as date. We don't have such functions here, right? So whenever we come across such kind of scenarios, in such scenarios, we can go ahead and use this code stage where we can write the code in multiple programming languages. We can write the program in C Sharp, Java, and then we have Visual Basic. Three languages we have. Okay, so in these three languages you can choose any of the language to write your own code. Okay, that is how we are going to use this code stage. Okay, and similarly wait stage, I'll explain you practically what is the purpose of the wait stage. Otherwise it will be bit tricky to understand, bit complex to understand about the wait stage. So we'll look into that practically. Okay, and apart from these stages, do we have anything else which are not available in Process Studio and which are available in Object Studio? Note is available in both the places. Here I have note, here also I have note. So if you see in the top, you can see in this toolbar here, we have this application modeler and launch, and this application modeler and launch is not available in the Process Studio, right? This application modeler and launch buttons are not available in the Process Studio. What is the purpose of the application modeler? So basically, I told you, right, we discussed about the types of applications already. There will be different types of applications basically. Desktop application, desktop is nothing but our Windows application. We can call it as Windows application also. Windows application, web application, Java application, mainframes, Salesforce, SAP, different types of modules we have. Applications won't be in a same type, right? There will be different types. Okay, so ideally most of the applications will be desktop and web based. Okay, most of the applications which we are going to automate will be desktop and web based. Okay, so mostly we'll be automating web based only. Even in banking also, in most of the bankings we will come across mainframes basically. Okay, so application modeler will help you to integrate the application with BluePrism. What do you mean by integrate the application with BluePrism? So recently I have shown you the example, right, where it launches the application automatically. It is able to enter the data into the application automatically. So how are we able to perform all of that? So we can do it once we configure our application modeler. Okay, application modeler is the place where we are going to do the integration of the application, any external application that we are planning to automate. Okay, and then we will be able to automate that specific application. Got my point, right? Okay, so today let me talk about application modeler here. Now these are the differences that we have in Process Studio and Object Studio. There's visual differences, that's all, but the usage and all will be completely different. How to use these stages and all I haven't explained yet, so we'll go ahead and look into how to use these stages. Okay, okay, so if you see here guys, in this we have initialize and cleanup page, but whereas in the Process Studio, where's the Process Studio? Okay, did I close it? Yeah, I closed it. 1 second, let me open the Process Studio. So observe the Process Studio. We in the Process Studio we have main page, page 1 and page 2. Likewise, we can go ahead and create the pages here. Okay. Similarly, in Object Studio, if you see here, we have we don't have main page, we have initialize and cleanup. And do not write any flow, I mean do not build any flow in this initialize and cleanup pages, okay, because these two pages will be executed automatically. These two stages will be executed automatically. Hope you're able to understand what I'm trying to say. We are not supposed to write any flow in the build any flow in the initialize and cleanup pages, okay, because you can see here the information about the initialize page, okay. This is an optional page where you might choose to perform some initialization task after your business object is loaded. This initialize action will be called automatically immediately after loading your business object, okay. So what is this going to do? Initialize. So you know, right? So we initialize the object, we initiate the object. How do we initiate the object? We create the instance of an object, right? In a class, we inherit class A into class B, and we initiate the object. Unless we initiate the object, we won't be able to proceed further, right? I mean, if you want to use any methods or functions from that class which we have inherited, if you don't initiate that, we won't be able to use that, okay. So likewise, similarly here also, the object needs to be initialized first. So this specific page will be called automatically, okay. Like we have, even if you don't declare constructor, you will get by default there will be a constructor defined, right? Yes or no? In your programming C#, as per OOPS concepts, if there is no constructor, if you haven't declared any constructor in your class, it will automatically calls a default constructor, right? The same way here also, we no need to do anything here. It will automatically calls this initialize page and also the cleanup pages. When our work with the object is completed, it automatically executes this cleanup stage, okay. So we are not supposed to touch anything, we are not supposed to write anything. I'll tell you when to use them. We'll come across all the scenarios where we use this initialize page and all, okay. So till then, don't how to say, like don't build any flow in this initialize and cleanup pages, okay. So now coming to the action, so here we'll be having multiple actions here, like how we'll be defining some methods and functions in a class. In this object also we are going to define the actions which we can perform, okay. Here we can perform multiple actions in the object studio. We can perform multiple actions in the object studio. So how do we define the actions here? So we create can we create a new action? Yes, right click, and when you click on new, it will take you to the new page, new action, okay. So now here if you observe here, this is our action one. Okay, just hold on, let me. So let's say for example, so basically in this programming, I mean I'm relating this to program, okay, because every one of you are already trained on C#, right? That is the reason, so that it will be easy for you to understand. That is the reason I'm trying to relate this to our programming, okay. So let's say for example, public class math, there is a class called as math, okay. So this class math, in this class we will write multiple methods. Public add is one method with parameters a comma b, and similarly, and here we write the flow, I mean what are the method, whatever this is going to do, this method is going to do, we write that inside this braces, like we say a plus b. Okay, we do addition here, and we say return c, something like that, return c. Okay, and we declare c also here, c equal to, basically we declare all the int a, int equal to a, int equal to b, something like that, but I'm not doing all of that. Just see what I'm trying to explain here. Okay, so here I have defined public add, public subtract. These are the two methods here. So in this math class, I have multiple actions which I can perform. What are all the multiple actions I am going to have here? Add, subtract, multiply, divide. Likewise, I can define multiple actions which I can perform in this class. Now I will refer this class into another class. Yes or no? I can inherit this class into another class. Now I will be able to use object dot that specific action. So what is the action? Object dot that specific method. Yes or no? How we initiate the object? New obj equal to, sorry, obj equal to new math class name, right? New class. Okay, so this will be the object in which we are inheriting the class. Now once we inherit the class here, now we can say obj object dot, it will automatically populate all the methods which are in public state, right? So we can see add, below that we can see here, we can see subtract. Likewise, now we will select whatever it is required. Similarly, here also in a object, here also in a object, I can define multiple actions. I can define multiple actions here. Understood? Okay. And why are we creating it in that way? Because there should not be any dependency. So let's say, for example, in action one itself, if I go ahead and define my flow for addition and subtraction both, let's say, for example, something like this. A, let me pick two data items first. Here variables means we should directly go for data items. So let me pick data item A, and its data type is number. Number A and B. Now come to the calculation stage. So what can we do here? I will be able to define my addition method here. I will be able to define my addition method here and store the resultant in C. Store the resultant in C. Similarly, if I go ahead and take one more calculation stage, and I will define subtraction method here, and b minus a, something like that, whatever it may be, b minus a, but we do subtraction here and we store it in C. Now this is going to return C. Okay, so like this I have different two methods here in a same, assume that in a same action page, in a same class, assume that action one is a class. I have different two methods in this. Now if I go ahead and refer this action in any of the process, if I go ahead and refer this action in any of the process, I'll tell you how to call that also. If I use any of that action, this directly I can call the action here, first action one. Okay, now if I use this action, what is going to happen? It is going to execute both addition and subtraction. It is going to execute both addition and subtraction. My requirement is only to add. Let's say, for example, my requirement is only to perform addition. I want to add two numbers. Okay, so now Let me show you how will I do that from the Process Studio. Let us first create a new process. I mean, I don't want to make a single process in a clumsy way. You should not get confused. That is the reason. So here is the Process Studio. And then let me go to the Object Studio here. So this is the Object Studio. I have defined this one. Now let me say right click on this. I am going to publish this. If I don't publish this, I won't be able to use this action in the Process Studio. If I want to use this action in the Process Studio, I should publish it. Okay, I should publish it. Okay, so if I don't publish, I won't be able to use it. Okay, so let me come back to the process once. Let me show you which stage will help you to call the actions. So there is a stage called as action stage. This action stage, we haven't discussed about this action stage so far. Now this is the place where our action stage is going to help us to call the object. Okay, now open the action stage. In the action stage, if you see the properties window of this, you can see business object and action. Now how are you calling these objects, other classes into how are you referring a class into another class? Same way, if you want to call another object into our process, how we do that? We use it through action stages. We call it through action stages. Okay, action is the stage. And business object, if I click on this business object here, I will be able to see all the objects that I have created so far. Okay, and under this list we will be able to see visual business objects, that is VBO, and we will be able to see internal business objects. Okay, VBO and IBO. VBO is visual business objects which we can see. Okay, which we can see, and which we will be able to edit it. We will, if you want to modify any actions in that, we will be able to do that on visual business objects which we are creating. The ones which we have created will be called as visual business objects, and internal business objects are the ones which are by default. So let's say for example you will be seeing some namespaces, right? Some namespaces. So let's say for example using system.io, using system dot generic dot collection. Okay, likewise you will be using some default classes which are already available, right? Likewise, where you won't be able to edit anything in this, yes or no? Can you see what are all the methods, what are all the functions are there? No, right? We won't be able to see. But whereas math is a class where I can see everything. This will be my visual class, but these are not visualized. We can't see them. They are internal. These are the internal references, right? Internal classes. Similarly, here also business objects, I mean visual business objects are the ones which we will be able to see them, we will be able to edit them, we will be able to modify them in whichever way we want it. Okay, but whereas internal business objects, I won't be able to do any changes. I won't be able to add extra methods for that. Okay, extra action pages for that. Whatever the actions are available, I should use them. That's all. Whatever the actions are available, I have to use them. I will not have any privileges to modify any of the internal business object in the BluePrism. Okay, clear. So what do we do now? So let me show you the visual business objects here. These are all the visual business objects. See, under objects, I have two folders here. One is default folder and one is IOPEX folder, which I have created just now. And in all your missions also, by default you will be having default folder. Most of you might have, I mean every one of you have tool on your machine, right? You can open the tool and see by default you will be having these default folders under process and objects. Yes or no? We will be having both of them. Okay, under process and under object you will be having this default folders. Okay, but now how are we going to create a new folder? We can create new folders also here. I have shown you that, right? Right click, create a group. You can create new groups, new folders here. Okay, now all these are the visual business objects which we have created. Okay, all these are the visual business objects which we have created, and that is the reason we will be able to open it, we will be able to edit it. Okay, now similarly in the process studio, when I go to this action stage and when I click on the business object list, what are all the objects available? If you take a look at the internal business objects, do we have any object that is visible under objects default folder? Can you find collections, calendars, credentials, data gateways, encryption, environment locking, work queues? Any of this object, are you able to see any of that object in this list here? See, we are not able to see collections, environment logging, what else we have, credentials, work queues, etc. Are we able to see any of that internal business objects here? We won't be able to see any of the internal business objects here. Okay, so because they are internal. Okay, so now this is our object under IOPEX folder. This will be the folder. Under that folder I have object demo, that is my actual object. Okay, now I select the object. Am I able to see the action here, list of actions? No. As I told you previously, as I told you, right, we need to publish the action here. We need to publish the action here. Click on publish. You can see, right click and click on publish. Once you click on publish, right, it will be published. You can see this icon here, object icon. Okay, this icon, whenever you see an icon for that page, then it clearly tells that it is published. Okay, let me save this. Published action page 1. If that's what we saw, that's fine, no problem. Published action page 1. Okay, now here if you see, we have published first action page. Don't forget to save it. Okay, don't forget to save it. So if you publish multiple pages also, don't forget to save it. If you forget to save it, so let's say for example I'm publishing both the pages, action 2 and action 3. Okay, after publishing action 1 I have saved my object. Okay, and after publishing action 2 and action 3, now observe it, I'm not going to save them. I'm simply coming back to the process, refresh my process, refresh. I told you previously, right, reset is going to do the reset locally and refresh will be environmental refresh. So if you want to reflect, I mean if you want to see any changes that were made outside the process, if any of the changes that were made outside the process that needs to be applicable for your process, if that needs to be reflected in the process, then we are supposed to refresh it. Refresh the page. Now come back to the action. Now select the object. Are we able to see action 1? We are able to see action 1 because we published it. After publishing we have saved the object, but I haven't saved the object yet after publishing action 2 and action 3. That is the reason I'm not able to see action 2 and action 3 here. Okay, so this is how we are supposed to go ahead and publish the pages and save it if you want to use that in the process studio. Okay, so what I do here, I'll come back to this one. Now let me save it. Published all the pages. Now let me come back to my Process Studio, refresh it. Now open this. Can we see all the other pages also here? Yes or no? This is how we can publish the action pages and we will be able to utilize them in the process. Okay. Now let us come back to the concept where I am explaining about this. Let us delete it. Not required. Now once I delete it, these won't be available again in the Process Studio. Okay. Delete. Let me delete it. I don't want to see all this. Now see here, observe here. Now let us pass some values. No, we want to pass the values from the Process Studio to Object Studio. Okay. So now I want to call this action, okay, into the object, and I want to perform addition and subtraction. Okay, this object into Process Studio, and I want to perform addition and subtraction here. Okay, how will I be able to do that? So now we have this page where I am able to refer the action here. Okay, but will I be able to pass the values? So basically in the Process Studio I will have my source data, number one, number data type, number two as my number data type. Okay, in number one let me pass 10, number two pass 20. Now my requirement here is to add these two numbers. Okay, will I be able to do that? I will be able to do that by using, I mean, assume that you don't have calculation stage. Okay, so basically what we do, right, we simply go to calculation stage and we use this, right, numeric function. We will be able to add it. But assume that we don't have calculation stage and we want to use that object. Okay, we have the addition method available in that object, so I want to perform the addition using that object. So how will I do that? Taking an action stage, open the action stage, select the object in which we have defined that, and here this is the action. Now selecting this, I'll come back to the object now. Okay, so for time being let us remove this one. I'll explain that concept again. For time being let us see how to use this, how to refer this. Okay, reset. Let me rename this as add. Save the object. So this is our action add. What are we referring here? Add. Now if I execute this, is it going to add 10 and 20? No, right? Guys, observe carefully. This is to the left side of the screen. We have, to the left side of the screen we have process, to the right side we have object. Okay, to the left side we have process, to the right side we have object. What are we doing here is, I have declared two data items, number one and number two. I want to add these two using this method add, which is available in the object demo object. Okay, obj demo is the object name. In that we have add is the method. By using this method I want to add these two numbers. So far we have seen how to call this into Process Studio. How are we calling that? We are publishing it, and then we are calling it into the process studio using action stage. Now I want to pass the values, this 10 and 20, to the object. You can see here these data items are empty, yes or no? The data items which you have defined are empty. I want to pass these values here so that this will execute A and B, I mean A plus B, and it will give me the result C, and I should get the result from here, and I have to store it in result. I'll take one more data item here. Let me take one more data item here and name that as result and provide the data type as number. Observe carefully what I'm trying to do here now. Okay, so open the start stage. Here we have inputs, right? In the start stage we have inputs. This is the start stage. Here we have inputs. I'm going to declare inputs here, which will come from process studio. Okay, number 1, number 2. Okay, these are going to come from process studio. Okay, I have defined them. It is number data type, also number data type. Okay, now click OK. I have declared them in the start stage. Okay, now observe carefully. I didn't save my object yet. I haven't saved my object yet. Now I'm going to my action stage. Do I have any inputs now? Currently I don't have any inputs, right? Okay, even though, see, this is the action we are using from the object obj demo. From the object obj demo, I am referring this action called as add. To add two numbers, I need to pass the inputs here, but the inputs are not available. So if I want to pass the values, there should be some inputs. So how will I get those inputs? The inputs must be declared in the start stage of the action. Inputs must be declared in the start stage of the action. Okay, here I have declared the inputs now. After declaring them, we need to save it. We need to save it. Okay, or let me give proper name, declared inputs. Okay, once you save it, come back to the process, refresh your process, don't forget to refresh your process. Now open the object. Are we able to see number 1 and number 2 here now? Okay, so these are the inputs you are supposed to pass. You pass these inputs. It is asking, hey, if you want me to perform this addition, if you want me to perform this method. Okay, these are the two parameters you are supposed to pass. What are the two parameters here? What are the two inputs it is asking for? Inputs are number 1 and number 2. Give me two numbers. Okay, now I will pass number 1 and number 2. Okay, now I'm passing number 1 and number 2. Now let us execute this and see how it is going to work. Okay, let us execute and see how it is going to work. Set as next stage. I'm going to do it in a debug method. We are going to debug it step by step. Okay, I'm going to perform step here. Observe what step is going to do. Step over, it will execute this stage. It will directly go to the next stage. But step, it will go inside the method. Okay, it will go inside the method. Okay, you might have debugged using already Visual Studio. In Visual Studio you might have done all these things, right? So that is the difference between step and step over. Okay, now I'm going to step. When I step, it will automatically open the object here. See, it has initiated the object in the background. It has initiated the object in the background, and you can see the name as ad hoc test. Ad hoc test, yes or no? Ad hoc test here. Okay, so this is your main object, but in the background it will initiate the object basically, and that is the reason you are getting this window Now you observe it carefully. We are passing the inputs to the action stage here. We have passed the inputs here. Automatically those inputs will come to the start stage of the object. Okay, start stage of the object. So once I execute the start stage of the object, where are the input values? In the start stage, we did not mention store in. They have to flow to Object Studio and they are supposed to store somewhere. We are supposed to store them somewhere locally. Okay, so that is the place where again we are supposed to use another data items in the object. Okay, another data items in the object. Is that clear? Okay, so for that what I do, I'll come back to my main object. I will pass these data items. Let me get the values from the process studio and let me store them locally in the data item A and data item B. Okay, now let me run this stage. Set as next stage, execute, step is going to step inside, and then you can see when I say step, what happened? Oh, okay. Didn't I save it? I think I haven't saved it. 1 second, guys. Just hold on. We did not get the values. I thought reset. I think I have saved it, right? Okay, I'm passing A and B. Let me save it. Refresh the flow. Passing number 1 and number 2 here. That's fine. Okay, now let us run it step by step. Step into. This is our object. Now again, I'm going to do step over. You can see the values from the process studio are now in object studio. Yes or no? What are the values you have mentioned here are now coming to the object studio. So how are we getting that? So first of all, whichever the action requires inputs, you need to first define the inputs in the start stage. Whichever the action, you might create n number of actions here. You will be able to create multiple actions pages here. So whichever the action page requires inputs, right? All the inputs must be defined in the start stage. In the start stage. Once you define them in the start stage, you will be able to see them in the action. Open the action. Are we able to see the numbers here? Yes or no? Okay. Now we are passing the values from the process studio. Our values are in these data items. Now I'm passing them to number 1 and number 2. I'm passing them value. This is the value field. This is the name field. Okay. Input name and value field. Okay. Now once we pass them here, now when we execute this action will automatically call this and it executes the start stage first. When it executes the start stage first, in start stage we have already defined that number 1 and number 2, I am planning to store them in A and B, and that is how it is able to store it in A and B. Okay. Now when I execute, it has performed the addition and we got the result here as C. Okay. Now I want to get this value from the object studio and have to store it in my result in the process studio. So how will I do that? That is the place where we are going to define outputs in the end stage. Start stage, we define inputs. In the start stage, we define inputs. See, only inputs tab we have, whereas end stage we'll be having outputs tab. So here we declare the outputs. Here we are going to declare the outputs. Okay. Clear? So that's what I'm going to do now. Let me reset the flow. I have reset the flow here. Now coming back to the object, I will go to end stage. I will declare the output here, name it as add result, add result, and I am going to get the value which is available in the C. In the C, I am storing the resultant. Yes or no? I will pass the value C here. So basically, when I perform the addition, this expression, once this is executed, the value will be stored in the resultant will be stored in C. Now, this value, I am passing it to end stage. From end stage, let me save this first. From end stage, where that value will be passed to action here. Okay, now observe what is going to happen here. Once I refresh it, open this action, you can see the output now. Now I will store the output which is available in this add result into my result. Okay, clear? Now observe carefully. Now let me debug it once again. Let me debug it once again and show you. It opens the adopt test of the object. Now the values present here are going to flow to the action. Okay, 10 and 20, and from here I am going to execute this expression. So when this add stage executed, the value is available in data item C. In this data item C, we have value. See, still we did not get the value here to the process studio. Yes or no? Once the end stage is executed, then you can see automatically the value from the end stage will come to the process studio result. How it is coming? Because since I have declared in the output, I am trying to store it in result. Okay, for this action we have defined for add is a action. In action add, we have defined inputs and outputs. So whatever the value we want to pass, we pass it through inputs. Whatever the value we want to get from the object, we get it through outputs. Okay, so this is how we communicate between process studio and object studio. Inputs one way, outputs another way. Okay, so we pass the inputs, we get the output. Okay, by executing the action between start and end stage in the object studio. Any questions? Yeah, I'll give you 10 minutes, but let me finish. There is little more concept on this. Let me finish that and I will give you some time to practice. Okay, meantime, if anyone of you have any questions, please let me know. There is a lot of pins here, but I haven't gone through them. Can you give us 10 minutes for practicing? Okay, sir. End stage in Object Studio. Alagesh. So, yeah, Alagesh, what is the question? End stage in Object Studio. Any confusion on the end stage in Object Studio? You can speak out, no problem. You can unmute yourself and you can speak out. If you have any questions, please let me know now. Guys, this is very
Sir, how
important.
can we declare the C value in the statement?
Yeah. So you know, right, these parameterized methods, unparameterized methods, you have come across, yes or no?
Ah, yes, sir.
So what is a parameterized method? So let's say, for example, is this a parameterized method?
Yes, sir.
Because I'm passing the parameters to the
It
method.
has a parameter.
Okay. Now, and will I be able to add? Will I be able to use this by default? I'm not sure, right? What will be the value it is going to return? How many inputs I need to pass to this method? Okay. So let's say add, fine. Add is fine. Every time we pass two values. Okay. Now let's say public logarithm. Okay. For logarithm,
Okay.
how many inputs we need to pass? how many outputs we are going to get, etc. We don't know, right? Okay. Now similarly here also, like how we have these parameterized methods, here also we use parameters like inputs and outputs. We simply call it as normal terminology. In a normal in daily usage words, we call it as inputs and outputs here. Okay? Inputs we define in the start stage, output we define in the end stage. So once we execute this a plus b is going to result in some value, right? We are going to get some output. That output will be in C. We are going to store it in C. In this calculation stage, we are performing the addition between a and b and storing the result in C. Now once the result is stored in C, I want to get this value into Process Studio. So for that, what I have done, I opened end stage. In the end stage, I have declared an output here. In the output, I am mentioning get value from, what is the column name? Get value from C. Okay. So whatever the value present inside the C, get that value and store it in add result. Okay. After storing it in add result, what are we doing here in this action in the Process Studio? So from add result, again store it in result. Okay. So once it stores in result, now it will be visible for us. Okay, that's what we are doing. Similarly, inputs also. From here, I'm passing the inputs to number 1 and number 2. I'm passing the values. Okay, number 1 and number 2, I'm passing the values. These values from here, it will go to Object Studio. In the start, it will assign A and B. So once they are available in A and B, we will be adding them here. We'll get the result, and the value will be sent back to Process Studio using end stage. Is that clear? You want me to explain it once again? Have you understood this? Anyone have any other queries? Guys, even if it is a silly query, right? Please let me know. I'll explain it. I will take some time to explain. Okay. But don't be in a dilemma that, okay, I understood. While practicing, you might face difficulty. That is the reason I'm asking you. Although it is a silly query, please go ahead and bring it to my notice. Okay. Please try to ask me any question. Even if you want me to explain the whole thing once again, I will explain it. That is not a problem, but you need to understand inputs and outputs. And to be frank, it is really simple. If you understand it once, you can play with this. Okay. So hope no one have any questions. I guess because no one are responding. If you are clear, I'll proceed further. Okay. Pritish, please explain the whole process once again. Once again. Okay. Sai Kumar also wants to hear it once again. Sure. Okay. I know you guys got confused. Maybe some of you might have joined a bit late, right? Okay. So from tomorrow, try to be on time. Okay. Okay, now let us come back here. So, okay, what I'm trying to do here. So first thing is object. I have defined an action here. I mean, basically when we create an object, we'll be getting the action page. Now, how can I use the actions present in the Object Studio in my Process Studio? Okay. So for that, what we supposed to do, we create a new page. I mean, new action. We create a new action. So let's say, for example, subtraction. Now observe this. What I'm going to do. Okay. Now I want to subtract two numbers by using this method. I want to subtract two numbers by using this method. Here I'm going to define. You can question, you can ask me, you might be having a confusion, right? Why can't I do this directly in the process studio itself? Yes, we can do it directly in the process studio itself, but I'm trying to explain you the concept of inputs and outputs so that you will be able to understand how do we use these inputs and outputs. Okay, so here in this, let me take another calculation stage here. Let me copy these data items. Let's see, delete this one, paste it here. It's simple, right? Instead of a plus b, let me just do it minus, and the resultant I'm planning to store it in C. What I'm trying to do, what we have done so far. Okay, so now I want to subtract two numbers. These two numbers I want to subtract. Okay, so how will I be able to subtract? Assume that we don't have a calculation stage here. Assume we don't have this calculation stage. So basically, to subtract, we'll go to calculation stage and we can use this numeric function here. Subtract. I can subtract two numbers here directly. But just assume we don't have calculation stage here. Okay. Now, how will I be able to subtract? I need to utilize this subtraction action here in the object. Okay. Now, how can I use that? That is the concept we have learned so far. Now, I am going to explain it once again. If I want to use this subtract, right click on the subtract, publish that first, and save the object. Okay, save the object, published subtract. Okay, save the object. Clear? Once you have saved the object, now come back to your process studio. Come back to your process studio. Okay, now take the action stage, drag and drop the action stage here. Okay, open the action stage to the properties window. You can double click on that. How to open the action stage? You can double click on that, or you can say right click and go to properties. Right click and go to properties. So double click on that. Here we have the business objects, the list of business objects. What is our object name? First thing, what is our object name? Obj demo. Okay, come to the action, select the object obj demo, and here we have the list of actions which are published. Now, okay, hold on, let us refresh this. Yeah, after saving the object, right, come back to the process studio and refresh it. We have to refresh it. If you don't refresh it, the changes will not reflect. That's what happened just now. So once you come here, you can see the subtract action here. Select the subtract, and if you want to subtract two numbers, you should pass the inputs, right? We don't have any inputs here. How will I pass these numbers? How will I be able to subtract these two numbers then without passing? Do I have any other option here? I can't pass the values any other way, in any other way. Okay, so what I do to get these values from process studio to my object studio, I will go to start stage. I will go to start stage. Here I will say X, and here I will say Y. Okay, and I am going to store them locally in my data item A and data item B. So X and Y are number 1 and number 2. Okay, so I am going to, those are the inputs I have defined here. For this action, to perform this action, I need some inputs. Let me rename the stage subtract. To perform this subtraction, I need two inputs, but my values are present in the process studio. I need to get those values and perform it here and send the output from here so that I'll be able to get the output to the process studio. Okay. Now save the inputs here that you have defined in Object Studio. Declared inputs in the Object Studio. This is the Object Studio. To my right side of the screen, we have Object Studio. I have just declared input the start stage. Declared inputs in the start stage. Remember, in Object Studio, you have to define the inputs. Some people will go to process In process, they will define the inputs. Don't do that, okay? In process also we can define inputs. I will explain when and how later. Concentrate on object now. We are in object. To identify if you are in object or not, you can just see the pages. If you are seeing initialize page and cleanup page, it will clearly say that it is object. And at the top also you can see object studio clearly. Okay, don't do such mistakes, okay, please. Now I have defined the inputs here and I've saved it. Refresh the process, come back to the process studio, refresh the process, open the action here, and I'm able to see X and Y. So these are the inputs. Now let me pass number 1 and number 2 as the inputs here. Values, I'm passing the values because my values are present in these two data items, so I'm passing them to perform subtraction. Okay, now when it is going to execute this, the values will come to object studio. Delete this, bring in here. Now I want to perform subtraction. Right click, I'm going to debug it step by step so that you will understand clearly what is happening. Step. This is your object which has initiated. Okay, now assume now observe this carefully. When we execute this start stage, whenever you see a yellow highlighted on a stage, which means that it is not yet executed. This is not yet executed. Okay, whenever you see on any stage, if you see this yellow highlight, okay, which means that assume it is not yet executed. Okay, it is not yet executed. Now we are going to executed. Okay, after the start stage gets executed, the values which we are passing to the inputs here, now they went to these values. I am defined in the inputs right here in the action of the process studio. Now they are coming from there to start stage. In the start stage, you can see X and Y. X and Y are now holding the values of number 1 and number 2. Now those values will be stored in A and B. That is what just happened. Number 1 and number 2, I am passing it to X and Y using action. Okay, from this action, when we execute this action, in this action we have the start stage. When this start stage gets executed, the values present in X and Y will now come to A and B, because I have mentioned that here. We have only declared it here, right? Store the values in A and B, and that is the reason you can see 10 and 20 coming to object here. Yes or no? So once they are available here, now if you execute this, the value, I mean, we got the resultant here. Now I want this resultant to be available in process studio. If I don't define output, what is going to happen? If I don't define output, the stage is executed, but where is my result? Where is my result? Because I didn't define any output in the end stage to store that in the result data item, and that is the reason I'm not able to see the result here. Okay, so if I want to see the result, what am I supposed to do? There is the place where I come to the end stage in the object, declare the output here, name it as subtraction result, and I'm going to get the value from C, because I'm using C as my data item. C is the data item in which I'm storing the resultant of the subtraction. Okay, and that value will be coming back to the process studio. Okay, let me save this. Or declared output to subtraction action. Okay, some comments. Now come back to this, refresh it. Now open this action. You will be able to see the outputs. So in the object studio, I am storing the resultant which I got in data item C into end stage. In the end stage, I have declared subtraction result. So here I am passing my value. Okay, and then that value in the action stage, of the process studio, okay, I am storing it in the output subtraction result. From here I will store it in result. Okay, clear? Now if you observe carefully, let me step, you can see it is going to execute. See, inputs are flowing from these values. I have assigned to x and y in the action stage. X and y are declared in the start stage, and the x and y values, which what are the values present in x and y, will be now stored into a and b, because I have defined it here step by step. Okay, let me show step by step. Number one, number two, I'm passing them to x and y. So what is the values of x and y now? X equal to 10, y equal to 10. Okay, when we execute this in the start stage, value present in x and y will be now stored in a and b. That is how we got a equal to 10, b equal to 10. Sorry, b equal to 20. Now in the subtraction, what are we doing? A minus b. After that, where are we storing the result? In C. Now we are going to store it in C. When I execute this, I got the result. I subtracted these two numbers, I got the result. Now in the end stage, I am passing the value present in C to subtraction result. In this subtraction result will now be available in my action stage outputs. So what are the value present inside this subtraction result will now be stored into result. Now when I execute this, okay, you can see the value is available in result. This is how the data will flow from process studio to object studio. Okay, if you want to get the data from the process studio to object studio, you have to define the inputs and outputs in the object level, not in the process level. You will be having the values in the process level, but you need to define the inputs and outputs in the object level so that you can use them through action stage. Okay, is it clear now? Whoever asked me to explain the process once again, is it clear now? Sai Kumar and Vishwa. Anyone else have Pritish also? Is it clear now? Guys, I'm asking you multiple times. Okay. Even after explaining multiple times, if you say once again not able to do that, okay, please let me know if you have any questions now itself. I'm not speaking. I'm just waiting for your replies. Okay. Have you understood or not? That's all. I'm not saying anything. Good. Okay. If everyone are clear, then it's good. Okay. Now you have seen we have, but why I am doing this? Why try to explain this one? So it will be easy for you to pass the values from Process Studio to Object Studio. Okay. This is the concept of inputs and outputs. Remember, this is the concept of inputs and outputs. Where do we declare the inputs? How are we able to pass the values to the another action page and all? This is the concept of inputs and outputs. Okay, try to remember this. Now coming to the next concept in Object Studio, coming to the next concept, reusability of the object. What is that? Reusability of the object. Before stepping into application modeler, let us discuss all these things. Okay, these are the basic things in the object. If we don't understand these things, again, if you go further to automate the applications, right, it will be a bit complex for us. So I'm explaining with simple examples. Now it is very simple, right? You understood what are these inputs and outputs by when we take a simple example. Okay, that is the reason. So now let me talk about the reusability of the object. So basically, uh, once we create class, right, this class can be inherited into multiple classes. Yes or no? Can someone answer me that? When I say my class is public, can this be reused by multiple classes, multiple people? Let's say, for example, you are creating one solution, system.io. System.io is one of the namespace, okay, which is nothing but a class. It's a class called as inputs and outputs, okay, system.io, okay. Now, in that class, there will be multiple methods, okay. Everyone can use that class, yes or no? Whoever is working on Visual Studio, whoever is planning to create a new application or whatever it may be, everyone can use that, right? Similarly, the object which we are going to build here must be in a reusable way. Must be in a reusable way. This object must not only be helpful for you, it should be helpful for other people in the organization also. We are supposed to build the object in such a way. Understood? Got my point? So let's say, for example, now observe this what I'm trying to do here. Okay, in subtraction, this is the action for subtraction, right? In this object studio, this is the action for subtraction. Okay, now in this itself, if I go ahead and take one more calculation stage, okay, and say multiplication and pass data item A into data item B and store the resultant in C, okay, click OK. This is multiplication here. Okay, if I put both the things in same page, if I put both the things in same page, save it, sorry, added code to multiply two numbers. I have done this. Now observe it. Now I refresh this. Now I want to perform multiplication alone. I want to perform multiplication or subtraction alone. Assume that I want to perform subtraction alone. Okay. But what is going to happen if I execute this? If I execute my process, what is going to happen? See what is going to happen. Observe it carefully, guys. I'm going to step in. So here, step, we got A and B values. It is going to subtract A and B. We are getting C here, right? This is the value which we are expecting. Okay. But what will be our result? See what will be our result. What is the result we got? 200. Why we got that result? Because we added multiplication also in this. Okay. We aren't supposed to do that way. Okay. We are not supposed to do in that way. Okay. So for that reason, I am going to break this from here and create a separate action stage. Create a separate action stage and name it as multiplication. We should not leave any dependencies on a action. So if you want to perform this action alone, Will I be able to do that? No. If I put my multiplication action here, like previously, how the code was previously, if I leave it like this, it executes both the stages here, right? Yes or no? It executes both the stages. What will be my result? 200 will be my result. I am expecting 10 minus 20, but I got the result 200. 10 minus 20 is equal to 200. No, right? So why are we getting that result? Because we have multiplication also linked in between start and end, which is not the right one. So what we do? We got it. We just leave it for subtraction alone. So we will be having our own requirement, right? We want to perform subtraction alone. We want to perform multiplication alone. So to perform any individual actions, so that is the reason we are going to create multiple action pages here, and design them like this. Okay, clear? Now let me publish this. Okay, so once you design it in this way, once you design your object in this way, now observe here in the process studio. This is my process studio, right? Where I am giving the demo on, how to call object into process. This is our process studio, how to call the object into process. Now this is one process. I'm able to use that object. Now similarly, there is another developer who wants to use our object which we have created. Assume any of you have created this object. Let's say Ajit have created this object. Obj demo. Ajit created this object, and Ajit is using that object in his process. Okay. Now Bala also wants to use this object. Will Bala be able to use this object? Yes, he will be able to use this object. Bala wants to use this object in another process, first process for demo. The process name is first process for demo. Bala wants to use that object in another process. Will he be able to use it? He will be able to use it. Let me create a new page here. So in this, what Bala is going to do? He's going to drag and drop an action stage, open the action stage. So Bala's requirement is just want to subtract. Now choose the object obj demo, and he will choose subtract. Okay. Now he passes the required inputs. Okay. Now he passes 500. Out of 500, I want to minus 330. Output, he's going to get the output. Okay. Now when he executes, is he able to get the result? Likewise, multiple people, whoever is developing their own processes, they should be capable of using the object. Understood? Likewise, in mathematics, how we have different numeric operations. Similarly, in each and every application, there will be multiple functionalities. Yes or no? We can perform multiple actions in each and every application, right? So let's say, for example, let us talk about IRCTC application. In IRCTC application, what are all the functionalities we have? What are all the actions we can perform? We can book a ticket. For booking a ticket, there will be sequence of steps. Yes or no? You have to launch the IRCTC application. You have to log in into IRCTC application. You have to provide the boarding and destination points, and then you need to provide the date, when is your journey date, right? So after providing all these details, then it will ask you to select the berth and enter the passenger details, name, age, etc. After doing all of this, then you can go ahead and book the ticket by finishing the payment. See, there are so many steps here, right? Step 1 is launch, step 2 is login, Step 3 is entering the boarding and destination point. Step 4 is choosing the date. Step 5 is enter the passenger details. Step 6 is likewise, you have some sequence of steps in one action. Booking ticket is one action. In booking ticket action, we have sequence of steps. Similarly, every application will be having some actions. In that in that actions we'll be having some sequence of steps which we are supposed to perform. Understood? Okay. So likewise, how we have this sequence of steps in math operations like add, subtract, multiply. Similarly, we'll be having sequence of steps in each and every action that we are going to have different actions in every application. Okay, you try to compare now. Okay, like booking ticket, and we have cancellation of the ticket is another process. Can I say cancellation of ticket is another process? To cancel a ticket, we need to follow sequence of steps. Yes or no? Sequence of steps is nothing but a process with some rules and validations. You can't cancel the ticket by default, right? You need to follow the rules accordingly. You need to check, are you going to get refund or not? If I'm not going to get the refund, what am I supposed to do? There will be a lot of conditions you need to take care of. Yes or no? Even while booking the ticket, you will be asking to choose, you will be asked to choose, do you want berth preferences? Do you want lower berth or upper berth? Something like that. Yes or no? Okay. Likewise, for every process. So booking a ticket is a process, canceling a ticket is a process, checking for your history. After 1 year, you want to see how much amount you have spent on your travel. Okay, your journeys. Okay, so what you do, you go to your history. In IRCTC application, you go to the booking history. In booking history, you will be able to see all the tickets, how many times you have traveled to a specific place. You can get the list of tickets that you have booked and the amount that you have spent on your journey. Okay, clear? That is the purpose where we are going to use our object studio to interact with the application and build a reusable object using application modeler. Okay, now let me talk about application modeler. Okay, let us do one thing. We'll continue from afternoon.